Hello there, world of tankers, and welcome to the channel. I'm your host, Edrodals Blitz, and in today's video, I'll be playing in one of the weirdest heavies of all the tier 10s, and that is the VK7201K. This is a tank that is rear-turreted, and if we take a look at the other rear-turreted German heavies, like the Maus, it features great side armor and pretty good side-scraping capabilities. The E100 is not rear-turreted, but it still features amazing side-scraping capabilities and a very solid turret for side-scraping as well. If we were to take a look at the VK90, which is hidden somewhere in the list as well, it's another fantastic vehicle for side-scraping and poking with the back of your turret, which is incredibly armored. The VK72 is not built like that. The side armor is actually incredibly weak, especially where the turret meets the hull. Because of that, side scraping in this tank is actually a terrible option. What you want to do is stick your hull out while not exposing your side armor and possibly bait shells from your opponents. Then once they shoot, you can then turn your tank, only showcasing the back of your turret and slapping them for a massive 640 damage. And this vehicle does feature tungsten, so if you actually want to hit them even harder, you can deal a whopping 700 damage per shot while it's activated. So it's a pretty weird tank. It's got a lot of effectiveness if you use that alpha and the massive chunk of hit points, but it also has these big weaknesses like poor mobility and obviously not so great side armor. The E100 features spaced all over the sides, which means vehicles like the 183 on the enemy team will not be able to pen the spaced armor on the VK or the E100 compared to the VK72's non-existent side armor. So it's kind of back and forth. I definitely would say right now the E100 is a much better tank. It has a better turret for angling, it's got better side armor and spaced armor. But the turret on this vehicle is rounded, and what that means is if you put it in a position, especially a hull down position using the 7 degrees of gun depression, it can be very hard to deal with. Especially next update, the turret armor is actually getting buffed, most likely on the weak spots. So if we do see this turret get massively buffed in a way that it's going to be very hard to pen, it's actually going to make this tank incredibly tricky to deal with. Not only that, but next update it's gaining damage per minute at a loss of alpha, but only 40 damage per shot. So it's actually going to make the tank a heck of a lot stronger. The only real downside that's going to be happening to this tank is that it is going to be losing a little bit of hit points at 150, but you'll still have around 2,700, so it's really not going to be all too much of a problem. We can see that the enemy IS-7 has decided to make his way up here. This is a weird position to put a VK72, but if we can get this to work, it can also be incredibly dangerous for our opponents to deal with. There you go. Nice slap into the enemy Kampfpanzer 50-ton. While the VK does not feature good damage per minute, it doesn't matter when you can just slap them. I mean, I could just easily deal with them here and get a pretty big slapping out in the process. The only problem is that my side armor is very poor, so when making my way across here, I want to make sure to not showcase my sides in the majority of situations. We're going to make our way right over to the side. We're going to actually shoot at this 183 if possible, and bonk. Wow, okay then, I got robbed. That is one of the downsides of having a lot of damage per shot, is when a shell screws you over, like that shot on the 183, it will massively screw you over. So yeah, that is a bit of a downside. But the good news is that, again, you don't need to bleed that much to deal damage to your opponents. So as you've seen, we just got a massive slap into that Maus without really worrying all too much in return. We can see that the 183 is into the back, and I'm going to aim in on that 183. We are possibly going to be able to slap him. There you go. And we roll 524. Man, that 183 is getting some mighty good luck today. Now, he just shot, which means at this point, we can drive right over the ridge. We know that the T-110E4 is off to the side, and the 183 is stuck in front of us. So at this point, I'm going to ignore the 183 for a second, and we're going to get a big slap into the Maus. Then we're going to turn our turret towards him, and since we have so much HP, the only option he really has here is to fire a standard shell, which will most likely cut through our lower plates, as you can see. But doesn't really matter. When we've got so much HP, all we need to do is slap him once, and once again we low roll him, but because we're a German super heavy, we just tap him and he's already down to a one-shot now. So at this point, it doesn't really matter. This 183, whether or whether or not he does a massive chunk of damage to us, is not going to come out alive. We get the finishing shell, and just like that, you can see where the VK-72 can be a very solid tank. We did 3,600 damage, and had a pretty solid victory. We were actually able to go all the way wide on Faust, and you might think that's a weird spot to put a super heavy, but the VK-72 does feature that turret armor that the E100 doesn't have because it's a rounded turret, so I can actually work the tank there pretty well. We did 3,700 damage, and we actually got a little unlucky too. Again, that shot on the 183 completely ripped us off and should have penetrated. I guess it just went a little... I don't really know what to say. That shell got me a little flustered. Here we are, battle number 2. Up against us, we have a Chieftain Mark 6, M6 Yo, and an Emil 2. Okay, well, this game we're going to start off by going wide. Sometimes I like to go in the base B, but don't let your opponents know your next move. So this game, I'm going to try, well, we'll see. I don't want to put myself in an overly aggressive position because my teammates are not necessarily supporting me. If we take a look at the minimap, we can see the majority of them are going over towards base D rather than B. So we're going to see if the enemy hops into the base. They don't have a lot of super heavies, so it is very, very possible that they end up not going in the C, but as we do end up noticing, they are stepping the base. So we're going to hold for here now. If we can just buy our team enough time, this should actually be pretty good. So that's what we're going to try and do. Our team is all pushing wide, and there is one of the heavies already detected. Let's see. Does anybody get spotted? No. All right. Well, our team going off to one side of the map has actually given us a bit of a possible advantage here, because it looks like the majority of the enemy team is going to be more dealing with that than me. So right now, we're going to try and just... Oh, that is a Waffenträger, though. Okay. Well, let's reload, and let's see if we can get a big slap into that waffle. Oh, that's a rip. That's really a rip. One downside of the VK-72 is its shell velocity. It's quite bad. The armor is also not very good. You can see how we just got penned right through our frontal armor, and again, it's just right through that frontal armor. We're going to load in an HE shell, again, aiming it on that waffle, and there you go. That is the shell I was hoping for. One big shot into that waffle, and he is already a one-shot. We've bled a lot of health. In fact, Emil literally managed to pen us with standard ammo in the lower plate. It's a great example of just how worthless this tank's armor can be. But at the same time, we're able to get a nice HE into that waffle. I don't think he thought we were going to do that. I don't really know what he was thinking. But what I can say is that he made a massive misplay and allowed us to finish him off. Even though we've bled a good 2/3 of our health, we've still been able to deal a massive chunk of damage. And at this point, we're aiming on that Emil and finish him off with a nice heat shell right into his turret. So, just like that, we're up to 2,700 damage. The enemy only has 4 vehicles left, and they are quite healthy, but our team has been able to just not bleed, actually. They've done a pretty solid job. So at this point, the 183 is probably going to, yeah, absolutely decapitate our T95E6. We're going to aim it on the side of the Yag, and there you go. Nice 660 damage slap into his vehicle. That 183 does have a pretty solid chunk of health left. And as of right now, it is definitely the biggest threat we're going to have to deal with. So, if I were to make an educated guess on where this 183 is going to go, he thinks he's probably smart and he's going to be able to get the jump on me if he goes behind, which he obviously did not get the jump on me. So at this point, the chances of him one-shotting us are basically non-existent. We killed him with the ram, and again, we're in a German super heavy. You don't ram a German super heavy. Does not matter if I only have 16 health. A small tap from my tank is a massive crash for yours. So just like that, we were able to finish off the 183. We were able to use our health to give our team a nice, solid victory. And just like that, this is another victory. As I said, this tank is not great. I could have driven an E100 this battle and probably done quite a bit better. My armor would have probably been a lot better for that Emil too, because I could have just over-angled the tracks and made it very hard to pen. But not only that, also, come on, back up a little bit. Yes. But as I was saying, I mean, look at that. The Emil literally penned us with standard ammo. That's a tier 9. It's really sad, especially because the whole point of this tank is supposed to be frontal armor. But because I'm running just that slight bit of extra HP, we were able to survive, deal 4,364 damage this game, and actually have a pretty solid victory. So, at the end of the day, it's a good tank. There's really no bad tier 10s, and while it may not be my favorite vehicle, it definitely can get some pretty solid results with that tungsten and the ability to just slap opponents with HE. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.